So just to give you some context of my background, so I've been in the NHS for 10 years. So I've been a community midwife. I'm the midwife that you see in the GP. I'm the midwife that comes and looks after you in the first few days at home. And I say the first few days, like I maybe see you 3 times within the NHS. I actually had private care for my own babies and had 2 lovely home births and 8 weeks worth of postnatal care with both of them. And it's that postnatal care and the time when a woman needs us the most is the bit that we just don't give you the time for, and because we don't have the time to be able to give it, and we talk about it as the Cinderella of the service. And I know I'm going into my other streamline of my business, but
no, it all makes sense. It's all part of the story. So
it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that when a woman needs us the most, when a family needs us the most, because let's not forget dads in the experience, we're not there, and we all think that we're doing it wrong, and we all think that somebody else is doing it better, and we all put this massive pile of guilt and responsibility on our own shoulders. But actually the system has set us up to fail, and the system of parenthood has set us up to fail, because I talk about it as like the competitive mum circle, and like, oh well, mine sleeps through and mine does this, and I never had colic, and I remember drowning as a midwife, and I'd been a midwife for years before I had my children, and thinking, why can I not figure this out? Why is this not easy? Why is this not natural to me? And I watched my husband, who's a very natural dad, not struggle, and then feel like I was the only one. And it wasn't until I opened up channels of communication with other people that I realized it's not just me that can't figure this out, that there's lots of other people, and that just because I'm a health professional doesn't mean that I'm supposed to know it all. And I think the one missing factor for me as a new mom was that I forgot about self-care. I forgot that I'd been an individual and a professional and, a wife and a friend and a socialite. And then I became a mother, and all of that was shed, and you miss that.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about that. I feel exactly the same, and that's why I'm quite conscious, and I'm trying to be quite careful with what I do and the words I use and the pictures I use, because there's so much out there which is I'm reluctant to use this word, but mumsy. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of I don't want to say things like hey mama or like hey mum sort of stuff. I just want to be like hey, like to the person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right, and there's a wider kind of societal feminist kind of issue around all of that, isn't there? And I think having been very, very lost in the kind of stereotypical housewife mother kind of unhappy situation, and kind of breaking out of that and finding myself again, it's like that's all the stuff that I want to feed into it as well, because it's
and there's beauty and there's rawness in that. And I think unfortunately society has told us that that's not how we're supposed to feel, but actually most of the women I've cared for, and particularly now within my lifestyle role within Templespa, I see that more and more. We are, as women, we're just crying out for something for me and not being made to feel guilty for that. And that's huge for me. Like I want to see women break free of this prison that we put ourselves into because I've become a mother. I suddenly because I've become a mother, I'm now no longer.
It's just the assumption, isn't it? That's what gets me. It's just no one tells you that that's what you have to do. No one says, okay, you're a mum now, this is what your life looks like. It's just the assumption. It's just the assumption that mothers will stay at home and dad goes back to work. It's the assumption that mum will, I don't know, do all the cooking, all that kind of stuff. It's the assumption that dad can go away on his lad's snowboard holiday, but mum probably won't go on a girls' holiday for the first few years. Do you know what I mean? It's just,
yeah, I really do. And interestingly, I approached that from the totally opposite spectrum. So I went back to work. My husband left his job to be at home with the kids more. It was him that told me to go for this opportunity with Templespa. It was him that constantly says to me, go do that, go pursue that, go, you know, I'll have the kids, you do that. And we're very 50-50, and I know that's
awesome.
that's rare.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say. That's awesome, but it, like, unfortunately, that's still like a story, isn't it? That's still news. Like,
yeah. And that's unheard. And actually, I guess there's a lot of stigma attached to a male choosing that role, you know. And I think it's breaking out of these confines of, you stick to your lane because that's what we've always done. And when you move out of that lane, there is a certain amount of firefighting to be done in that. And it's really challenging, and it's messy, and it's okay.
It's messy, it's huge. And like, I still struggle with it a lot. And I still struggle with, because I now co-parent and I do have time to myself more than, a lot of mums. I think, are people going to think I'm just hypocritical? Because, they're like, yeah, but you get every other weekend, so, that kind of stuff. Or I see friends or relatives that are kind of doing motherhood differently, and everyone does motherhood differently. And I think, oh God, are they going to judge me because I only have my daughter 70% of the time or whatever? It's like there's still a lot of guilt attached to doing things in a slightly different way, and kind of fear of judgment and stuff, which is just crazy.
And that's womanhood. And I feel really strongly about the fact that I walk a different path, because of the brand that is Templespa, and because of the role that I have as a lifestyle consultant with the brand. We definitely walk a different path. It's that, I don't want to be cliche in that whole like women empowering women thing, because that comes with labels as well. But if I give you a little bit of context in terms of how I became to do what I do. So like I'd love to know how you kind of merge the two, because it sounds like a really interesting crossover between that kind of lifestyle stuff and the kind of self-care. So I was like your really like holistic alternative midwife. Like I was all about home birth and hypnobirthing, and motherhood is great and fantastic. And then I walked that reality, and yes, I had fantastic birth experiences, and yes, I had great care, and I thought I was doing it and it was fantastic. And then suddenly at like 6 months postnatal, like a ton of bricks hit me, and I suddenly went, I don't actually know who I am anymore. And I can't be the only person that feels like this. So I now need to take the opportunity to be selfish and be okay with being selfish. And Templespa has always been woven through my adult life. So the brand itself, in terms of how I found them, was skincare. I'm a lover of all things creams and smells and wonderfulness, and I think that comes from my mum, because my mum was in this kind of industry when I was a child. And I found this brand before I was ever married. So it's kind of woven its way into my life. And then
so you've always been a very kind of natural advocate for them.
And I am not the kind of person that will advocate something if I don't believe in it, because I feel very strongly that, I've got a code of conduct as a midwife. I can't do that because I'd get struck off the register. And I am still practicing as a midwife. So like those two things kind of go hand in hand for me. I've got to be an advocate for that holistic picture. But it was actually one of my first nights out as a new mum, where I didn't have a child attached to my boob.
At what point was that? Do you remember?
It was about 6 months. 6 months.
About 6 months. Yeah.
And I was very much like, I'm going to breastfeed and exclusively breastfeed, and he won't be on this and he won't be on that. And I think part of that was because it'd been drilled into me as a midwife. And I remember my husband saying, just go, like, you're only going to be out of the house for 2 hours, and if I need you to come back, I will. He's fine, he's asleep. And I was very attachment parenting. Like I wore him in the sling, and we co-slept, and we did all the things that the NHS kind of guides us away from. And I'd I remember going and thinking, I'm just not going to enjoy this. I'm just not going to enjoy this evening, and convincing myself on the way there. And I was going to be with friends who were all mothers, who had all been with me on this journey. And I was the last of my friends to have a baby because of different circumstances and choices that me and my husband had made. We kind of lived our life first, and then 10 years later decided to pursue children. And so I went on this evening, and I'd been to many Templespa experiences. So our main branch of the business that I currently work in is what we call Spa to Go. So we have the really privileged opportunity to go into people's homes and give them a 2-hour vacation from life.
Oh, how nice.
And how beautiful and how wonderful and privileged it is that people let us do that. So I take my little trolley of beautiful products and I give people 2 hours of bliss where they don't have to think about parenthood, and they don't have to think about work, and they don't have to think about anything other than just putting some lovely, beautiful products onto their skin and letting their body go.
And I love that it's like a couple of hours as well, because that's the other thing that sometimes I think, well, there's not much that's like, I just need a little break, just a little micro break from, like, you know, it's like, I don't want to go for a whole night out or a whole weekend away or a whole day off. I just want, just like a couple of hours would be lovely.
And it was blitz, and it was wonderful. And I remember being there and this 2-hour session passed and thinking, this is the first time in 6 months that I haven't thought about being a mum. And then a light bulb hit and I went, and that's okay. It's okay to have that 2 hours of recharge, or 15 minutes, or running a bath and locking the door, and not having to have the responsibility of the outside world to come a knocking. And at the end of that session, my wonderful friend Jenny, who is now just happens to be my upline manager, said to me, Bailey, I know I've asked you this before and it's never been the right season, because I'd either been training as a midwife or I'd just qualified or I was pregnant. And she just said, just have a think about it. Even if it's just whilst you're on maternity leave before you go back to work, just think about it. So I came home and I said to my husband, you'll never guess what I was asked again tonight. And he said, you've been asked to join, haven't you? And I said, yeah. He went, well, you just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
What have you got to lose? So six months after my little boy was born, I took the opportunity to join the business. And now, I mean, I'm 4 years into this journey as a lifestyle consultant, and I have seen so many other people in similar circumstances to me see that it's okay to give themselves permission.
That's so powerful, isn't it? That's just so nice that you can be involved in that.
And whether it's permission to gather people in their similar circumstances, whether it's permission to take up the business opportunity, whether it's permission to simply go, you know what, I'm just going to take this little kit and I'm going to go and lock the door, and I'm going to go and have 15 minutes out of what is a busy, hectic, demanding schedule to just breathe and just capture my essence, and realize that in all of the chaos of life and the demands and the giving out that I have to do, that in order for me to be able to do that, I have to press pause and I have to steady my mind. And it's okay to do that.
Yeah, well, I like what you said there. You have to. That's the thing. It's not like a luxury or an indulgence. It's necessary. It's literally necessary to look after yourself, your mind, your body, your soul, whatever that looks like to you, because otherwise you're going to burn out and you're not going to be able to do the life, the mothering, the wifing that you have to do, the work. You know. And
I feel like there's a lot of stigma to the whole wellness and self-care, and there is massive amounts of block breaking to be done, especially as new mothers, to put your hand up and go, do you know what? No, I need this. I need this in order to be good at the other things in my life. It's like when you first put your child into nursery, and I remember putting the kids into nursery and thinking, I feel really guilty that they're in nursery, but yet I'm at home. But actually, at the end of the day, I was a better mother, because they'd been and they'd socialized and they'd had a different attention. And I sit here today with them both at nursery today, doing my Templespa responsibility and job. And this is a business for me. I treat it as my business. It's not a side hustle. It's not a happy little gig that earns me some extra income. This is my full-time job now. And what an amazing job that I get to give people permission to self-care. It's exactly what you're doing, Sarah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And also in terms of your kids, the other thing that I remind myself of, because I also, same as everyone else, have the whole mum guilt thing. Especially, I recently put my daughter in preschool full time, and that was a huge like, oh, she's not at school yet, she doesn't have to be there, why have I put her in full time? And it's like, well, one, it's necessary. I have to work full time because I'm a single parent, I have to earn, but also you are setting an example. You are setting an example of, I'm being proactive and I'm creating this career for myself, and that's also a powerful thing to be doing, for the benefit of the kids as well.
And in all of that, let's remember that we all make different choices for different reasons. So Clark, my little boy, I'm quite happy to share him all over social media because people have seen him since he was day dot. He should be in reception now. So he is old enough to be in reception. And we as a family made the conscious decision that we wouldn't put him in reception this year and he would start school in year 1.
Yeah.
And there are days where he cries before he goes to, because he goes to forest school. So he gets to learn to play with fire and knives and be a proper boy. And there are days where I remember we went to bed last night and we both looked at each other and went, have we made the right decision not putting him in school? Because he might not get that place next year and he might really struggle to adjust to being in a new circumstance. But that just, I think that mirrors really interesting what you've just said there, Sarah. So you've put your little one into full-time nursery and I've made the decision to not, but yet we both feel guilty about our choices.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I talk about this as a midwife. I'm like, what we should do is when we deliver your baby, and I use that term very loosely because you birth a baby. We should give when we take your placenta, we should give you a bag of guilt that just metaphorically lives somewhere in our subconscious that just every now and then just kind of heightens. Because even when I'm out doing Templespa, for example, I'm going away this weekend, I've got 4 days away. My husband will be responsible for the kids for 4 days. But like you were saying, it's okay for dads to go on ski holiday. My husband's a mountain biker, so it's okay for him to go mountain biking, but I'll stay at home and do it. It's not like that in my life. I am the one who gets to go away. And I realize that I am in a heightened privileged position to be able to say that. But I'm doing that to better my family's outlook. And so there shouldn't be guilt in that. But society tells us that if you're not at their beck and call 24 hours a day, if you're not by their side when they need you, if you're not ringing in every 5 minutes to check that they're all right, then you should feel bad about that. And I fully take back the power of that and say, no, I'm not going to do that, because I don't want my daughter, when she becomes a mother, to sit there and think I'm supposed to feel guilty for carving out a life for my family. That's not how we should. I don't feel like that's, as a mother, how I should be made to feel. And I do think that's a historical, generational thing that's been spoken over us and that we tell each other. I mean, I'm sure you found it, Sarah, when your little one was very tiny, that comparative motherhood journey that we all go on, where, you've got a friend who's got a child of a similar age and then meeting different milestones at different points that yours are, and the questioning that we go through that comes alongside that.
Yeah, it's relentless, isn't it? It's huge, and it's like, why is this still a thing? And I think hopefully it's changing. I think there's lots of people out there doing some really valuable work, and shifting that messaging slightly. And I know I've had really lovely conversations with my mum and my nan as well, talking about different things. And it was so emotional once. My nan said something like, oh, I wish there was people like you around when I was a new mum, because they didn't have Instagram and net mums and whatever. It was very kind of, they had to do everything kind of in solitude, didn't they? And it was very word of mouth. So I think that whole scene is hopefully shifting in the right direction in terms of, you know, spreading new ideas and kind of new concepts and new ways of doing things.
And I really believe that that's the missing link within motherhood. Again, if I come at this from my midwifery perspective, we set you up, we go, right, your baby's great, it's above birth weight, you're feeding fantastic, bye. And then especially people who've had children through COVID and lockdown, you know, we're all muddling our way through it, but even more so isolated. And I think there's a massive need for bringing people back into community. And I love nothing more within my Templespa job to see people connected, whether that's virtually or whether that's sat around a table or it might be corporate, to see people together again, because we are not as human beings, we are not designed to live in solitude. You know, I'm a hermit when I need to be. I love nothing more than watching crap telly and drinking a glass of wine. Like, that's my ideal night in.
Yeah.
But I can't do that forever, because we are designed to be in community. We're designed to be in communion with each other, doing life together. And I always say this to new mums, it takes a village. It takes a village. And especially, like, I come from a single parent family. My mum did it on her own, and ran a very successful business alongside it. And it's hard. It's really hard. But she had community. She had people around her to pick up on a school run, or take me to dance classes, or take me out shopping, or whatever that looks like. And you know, I love nothing more than when I've got friends who become new parents, taking them a little something, a little gift bag, cook them a meal. I'm not here to cuddle your baby. I'm just going to drop this off and say congratulations, and off I go. And that's what's missing for me. Like, that element of, we're in this together. You might think that you're not doing it right. I didn't think I was doing it right. Let's pause, vent how we all feel like we're thinking, and pick up again and realize that we should all just be holding each other up in this and doing it together.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And you're right, especially after COVID. I don't know about you, but I think everyone's noticing that connection more. And I live on my own as well, and I work from home. I'm on my own. So if you do have those moments of connection, even via Zoom like this, but especially in real life, if you spend an evening with a friend, or, you know, go meet someone for coffee, I just feel so like, oh, it really lifts me up. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We are designed for connection. And for, you know, even like physical touch is so important to us, like on a physiological level. So it's we've got to rally together. We've got to look after each other. I love that.
Absolutely. And I've seen it more and more. You know, I went back to work in my NHS capacity in the first week of lockdown last year, having not practiced for 14 months, and I felt like a bit of a fraud. I kept saying to these women who were coming through, oh, by the time you're having your baby, COVID probably won't be a thing. And here we are.
I know. Still rallying on.
Imagined. And we've all had to change the way that we work, the way that we exist, the way that we shop, the way that we experience. And I was all about experiential living. And I loved nothing more than packing up my little case of products and taking them to somebody's home. And like I said, provide that 2-hour vacation. That was just not an option during COVID, you know, and I was working more than ever, and I was on call a lot, you know, delivering babies at home. That was my bread and butter. And Templespa became restitude for me. It became sanctuary. It became as much self-care as it did be business. And more and more, I saw people coming to this brand as a brand that, you know, our underlying heartbeat is, we are a brand of wellness. We're the hug in a jar brand. We are, you know, we exclusively want people to connect with each other, but also connect with themselves. And yes, it's fantastic that I've got lots of lovely little mini products that I can send to people, but there is nothing more powerful than touch, like you said, whether that's instructing someone on how to be able to self-care and touch. Because how many people don't actually connect with their own bodies? And especially as a new mom, you feel totally foreign in your body, don't you? You're like,
it's like someone's handed you a new body. I'm still adjusting to my new body 3 years on. It's a huge like physical and mental shift that I
Yeah.
don't think anyone really spoke about that much. Kind of
Yeah. Well, we don't.
No.
You part with this baby, and we might tell you, it takes a year to recover. Well, a year after recovery, I was pregnant again. So I'd been pregnant and breastfeeding for 4.5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And I stand in a very special place where I had private care from a friend, and I had this brand that I knew I had to self-care, because otherwise I felt like a bit of a fraud walking the walk. But still now in my body, and like I'm just at that point where I'm starting to feel myself, and I'm kind of back to the position that I wanted to be. And I don't want to talk about baby weight, because like your body changes forever, let's face facts. My hips are always going to be wider, my boobs are always going to hang a little bit lower, I'm always going to have a little bit of a mum tum, and I love that about myself. But that's a huge mental shift to get to a place where you're okay with that.
Yeah.
And all of this all wraps into self-care, doesn't it? It's all surrounded by being able to love yourself.
Yeah, I always think self-care and self-worth are one of the same. Like you can't do one without the other. You can't take care of yourself without first believing that you deserve to do that. So it's all wrapped up in this big kind of self-worth picture.
And I think one of the most powerful moments I've ever had within this brand was going to my very first class. And we talk about them as classes because they're educational as well as experiential, and a little bit of entertainment. I like to keep it light. But I remember sitting around with a group of mums, because that tends to be where I find myself. I find myself placed either amongst health professionals or amongst new mothers.
Yeah.
And there was a mum there who, her little girl was probably about 6 years old. And there's this moment in a class where we've cleansed our face and we've gotten rid of the day, and we pop a face mask on, and that's the point where everybody kind of starts to really unwind and feel settled and comfortable. And then I, a bit like a flight attendant, hand out warm face cloths.
Oh, nice.
And there's this moment where everybody puts their face cloths on, and I do a little bit of a meditative mindfulness.
Oh, how gorgeous. Yeah.
And it's just being conscious of where your body is in the chair, and where your shoulders sitting, and where's your mind drifting to. And as you just,
does everyone go, oh, just like
and this girl who I've known for years, we've been friends for years, she took off her face cloth, and it was literally like someone taking off the mask.
Yeah.
And the tears that were flowing, because for the first time in however long, she had connected, she'd relaxed, she'd allowed herself that realization of, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And these emotions that I'm experiencing are normal, and they're okay. And in order to be able to connect with everything else going on in my life, I have to connect with these emotions first. And that, like, how amazing that
I'm feeling quite emotional just listening to you tell that story. It's because it's so, it will resonate, I'm sure, with like every mum watching. It's so powerful. And also since motherhood, my emotions are like so heightened anyway.
Do you cry at adverts? Do you still like
30-second advert, and I'm like, oh god.
I can't even watch TV at Christmas because the John Lewis advert will come and get me.
Honestly, I thought that was just kind of a pregnancy hormone situation, but it's stayed ever since. I just feel everything.
Yeah.
So I can feel myself getting emotional as you tell that story. I can totally relate.
Yeah. And people think that, like, you can see my lovely banner that's behind me, it's all product, but actually, first of all, product is great, but there needs to be experience with that. So like I talk about rituals, and I know, Sarah, from following your page, that rituals are really important, whether it's the first cup of coffee in the morning, or eating peanut butter out of the jar, or for me, it's that last moment at night. So I talk about taking off the day, whether I've had a face of makeup on, if I've been wearing a full PPE, if I've been in my pajamas because the kids have been at nursery and I've been putting samples together to send out pamper experience packs, I have to take off my day. That's part of my ritual. And I get to do that with amazing products that have results. These results, they're clinically proven to do a job. But for me, it's the ritual of that experience. So the kids might have just gone to bed and I will go in the bathroom and I lock the door because there's always that one child that needs a wee that you can put to bed. And I will prepare myself a hot flannel. I might put on some music just whilst I look myself in the eye. Because again, that's something else that we don't do, is it? We might look in the mirror, but we don't look ourselves in the eye. I will look myself in the eye and I will say, you've survived the day. You've done it. Might not have done it well, but you've survived the day. You know, you might scream at the kids however many times, but that moment of permission for me, of looking myself in the eye and going, you deserve this. You deserve this 5 minutes of self-care, of skincare, of connecting, of just taking the day away and breathing. That to me is, like, if I only get that moment, if I don't do anything else with Templespa for the day, that moment for me is like brushing my teeth. It's a necessary health benefit.
That's exactly the thing with ritual, and that's why I kind of talk about the kind of the daily habits and the rituals and stuff when it comes to self-care, because yes, I think going back to a previous point you made, a lot of people think that it's like having an indulgent bubble bath and it's like going on a yoga retreat. It's like, no, it's just like often the mundane stuff that you do every day that just means you are keeping your batteries topped up and you're keeping your cup filled up, and it's like your nighttime skincare routine probably is only 5-10 minutes, but how powerful that will have an effect if you do that every single day over the course of however long. And it's just so beneficial.
One of the other amazing things about this brand is our give back. So I obviously sent this through to you, our little moments of peace.
I've got my little goodies here, honestly. I was so like bowled over when this came through. How gorgeous.
So I mean, the other stuff that's in there is just beautiful skincare. But like, I want to talk. So we know October is mental health awareness. It's all about self-awareness of your mental health. And Templespa talk about the fact that we are mind, body, and soul. You know, it says on all of our packaging, your body is a living temple. Honor, respect it, and live life to the full. You know, there is a heartbeat within our brand that is about self-care and self-awareness, and how powerful that a brand that you can walk into Harrods and buy us over the counter, you can book a first class flight to wherever in the world and experience us on an aircraft, you can get us on the Orient Express, but actually at the very heart of what we do is connecting with a person at their point of need. And we do that even more so than we do it any other time of the year in the month of October. And I just said, I've come off a massive sales call this morning with the company's leadership. And I know it's our best ever month for raising money. So you can see on the back of that little packaging there, we've got the little mind label.
Yeah.
So this month, so October, in the month of October, mind is right at the center of everything that Templespa does. And we do that through these little packages. And we also do that from our best-selling product, which is Repose. And you've got a little mini Repose in there, Sarah. But this is quite possibly my bedtime lifeline routine. So I do my skincare as I would usually, but this, I can't even tell you what this does for me. So this is it even says on the packaging, a good night's sleep in a jar. This is an aromatherapy resting cream. And my bedtime routine, bear in mind that I have 2 children that don't sleep fantastically well. I will get into bed and this lives on my bedside table, and I'll have done all the stuff that I need to do, you know, like put the house to bed and turn the lights off and just check on the kids. And then the last thing I do at night is I get myself into bed and I do this Repose ritual. And I'm going to send you a little video link of how to use that moisturizer. And it's a beautiful moisturizer of itself.
Yeah.
But this pot here, this is my grounding before I go to sleep at night. And I simply pop that moisturizer into my hands, few deep breaths, and I just have gratitude for the day. Whatever the day has looked like, I have gratitude. And I could have done that with any other brand, couldn't I? But knowing that this particular pot of goodness, especially in October, we donate the profits from Repose to Mind, the mental health charity. And, you know, perinatal mental health, women's and dads, mums and dads' mental health in the postnatal period and throughout pregnancy, it's a very fine line to walk to maintain your mental health as a new parent. I mean, how many times a day, Sarah, do you feel like you're going to lose with your child for whatever reason? I think we forget that in order for us to have a really good mental health, and sometimes it's better than others, we have to fill up our cup. We have to put on our oxygen mask. We have to take a moment. We have to do these things for ourselves, because without doing them for ourselves, we can't do it for anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so powerful. And that little ritual that you do, even you'll then associate the place that you do it, you'll probably associate the smell of it with switching off and winding down. It's so powerful.
Yeah. And so this little ritual here has got everything you need to create that perfect little moment of peace.
I love as well that it's got a tea bag and it's got a candle, like it's whole experience, isn't it? It's not just chuck a couple of products in, it's like a whole little experience.
I mean, I could have just chucked a couple of products in, but that's not what our brand's about. Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that the packaging is beautiful, the fact that you opening this beautiful ribbon, you're treating yourself, and it might only be 15 minutes, it might be 5 minutes, it might be, I mean, I've been known to carry one of these pots in my uniform pocket as a midwife. So when things get really stressful, and let me tell you, as a midwife, we operate at a high stress, and I know physiologically you can only operate at that level with your cortisol and your adrenaline operating for a certain amount of time before your body goes, nah, I can't do this anymore, and you crash and burn. And heightened as a professional, that happens in short, sharp bursts, and it's not good for you. As a mother, you kind of gradually get to a point where you're operating at that level, and you have to have a come down at some point, because physiologically your body cannot maintain that. It's just not possible. And you will at some point tag out. There will come a point where you go, I cannot do this, I have to stop. And you'll either get ill, or your mental health might suffer, or you'll snap with the kids or your partner or your business colleague, whatever that looks like. And that's your body going, hang on a minute, you can't do this anymore, you have to stop.
Yeah.
But if we're habit stacking and we're doing things like those small moments of, like, I can't operate without a cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just those moments that are just going to bring it back down and just let you back out.
Yeah. And I'm not a morning person. My husband is a 6:30 first thing in the morning. He gets up, he exercises, he does some meditation. He's an all-around good guy. I'm very lucky. He's an excellent father. He's a very professional person. I am not. I am like a bear with a hangover first thing in the morning. Just don't speak to me until I've brushed my teeth, I've had a cup of coffee, and I've had the time to, like, the kids know, don't bother mummy until she's had coffee. And it's those little moments of self-care that is habit stacking, that is ritual building, that allows you to function as a human being. And sometimes I say to my girls in my team that I work with, and I'm very lucky that the team that I work with directly, we very much sing off the same hymn sheet. A lot of us are health professionals, a lot of us are mothers. We all know that sometimes there are days where you just have to hide under a duvet and treat your soul as if you've got the flu, watch rubbish TV, drink hot cups of tea, eat chocolate, and hide yourself away. And that's self-care too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, without that guilt. And
I feel like that's an underlying theme that we've come to here, Sarah. We're like, give yourself permission, don't feel guilty about it, but it has to be done. And it's something that I see it in the crux of my profession. We expect mums to be all things to all people, but not have anybody there to have their back. And, you know, that's why I think doulas are massively undervalued within the NHS system and the structure of maternity services, and independent midwives who have had their professional practice undermined because they're no longer able to practice in the same way they used to, and NHS midwives who have worked tirelessly to provide postnatal care, but those services are being stripped back because of funding, because of COVID, because of rising birth rates. And yet then we set up a generation of new parents who then teach those same habits to their children. You know, my kids know that when mummy sprays her magic sleep spray and she puts some repose on you, it's time to calm down.
Yeah.
You know,
again, it's routine, isn't it? Again, humans like it. Humans like routine. And
and there's comfort in that. There's self-love in that. There's reconnecting to what we're designed to be. We're not designed to operate in this instant. And I think social media has a lot to blame for that. And I'm terrible. Like, I run a business off this thing, 2 businesses off this thing, and I'm connected, and I catch myself, and I'm sure you do, going, just 1 minute, darling. Just give me one moment.
All the time. My screen time is scary, and yes, I do. And when it gets me is when my daughter goes, "Put your phone down." I'm like, "Oh my god, God!" And then it, like, you know, it properly goes away.
I mean, I caught Tilly, my 2-year-old, on the toilet earlier with my phone,
having a little scroll,
and I was like, "Oh gosh, like." Oh, but that's the society we've created. We've created an instant gratification society where actually there's a lot to be said for simply pressing pause and enjoying the moments, and then being mindful about those small moments. Like, my kids had been at my parents' overnight because both my husband and I had to work yesterday, and they came home and they were both sat at the dining table and they were making each other laugh, and both me and my husband stood in the kitchen and just watched them, and to just engage that moment of just absorbing that. They're the moments that life's worth living for, not another pound in the bank account, not the latest car on the drive, not another like on Instagram, you know. And I know in social media, you and I both live for building our communities, but that's not life, you know.
That's a tool. That's just stuff. You're absolutely right. That's stuff. So it's so good to just
and I love the fact that Templespa have actually they've harnessed that. So, you know, we're allowed to talk about Christmas now because it's November. But Templespa have harnessed that, and our theme for our Christmas a beautiful range that they've developed is called Joyful Places. And they asked people, where is your joyful place? Where do you get joy? And it might be the simple first cup of coffee in the morning. It might be going out for a walk on those crisp leaves that have just got that first frost. It might be your little person wanting to give you a hug on their own. Whatever that joyful place is, those are the moments worth living for.
And noticing, like you say, isn't it? Just taking a moment to notice.
And we'll never get those moments back. You will know this, Sarah, now that your little one is 3.5 and her own little person. And I wish someone, and I can say this as a midwife, I wish someone had said to me, people say the first year is the hardest. Gosh, give me those early days back. Give me those days back where I could cuddle and watch Grey's Anatomy and just be present and in those moments. And I really very, very much advocate for when new mums become new mothers, living in that bubble. And COVID definitely did people a favour for that, to be allowing people to have permission to be in their own little bubble. But I think we should have a holiday from life and sometimes just create space to be able to do that and enjoy those moments, those joyful places. And I feel so lucky to work and walk alongside a brand that is at the crux of what we do. We want people to live life to the fullest, and in order to do that, you have to recognize when you're not doing it. And
it just sounds like you've got just the loveliest core ethos. And I think any brand, coming from with my other kind of professional hat is marketing and stuff, and I think any brand with a really strong valuable core ethos is just so important, and that's the key to success. And to give value is so important, isn't it? Bailey, I feel like I could sit with a bottle of wine with you and just talk forever and ever. This has been just so nice.
Shall we? Should we book that in?
Yeah, shall we? Yeah.
I'll come and do a business trip and I'll bring you.
For sure. Can you leave us with something that we can do, or that I can do, probably with this, but also maybe with alternatives, or just a little ritual or something that any kind of busy mum can do? And then I will do my usual, and I will film that and tag that onto the end and give it a go.
So one of the big things for me is, like I say, ritual and pressing pause. And now in here, so these were limited edition for October. However, if there's anybody that's watching and think, oh my goodness, I need to experience that experience, just connect with me and I will arrange it. It doesn't cost anything to host one of these sessions with myself. You just have to gather. You just be the gatherer of people and I do everything else. So if that's something that people are watching and think, I want to know more, please get in touch. And it can be people up and down the country. I don't have to come physically. I can do everything virtually. But this creates that moment. But what I want to do is, so in there, Sarah, you've got a little mini repose.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, repose is the most beautiful, restful, good night's sleep in a jar, but it's also a triggered aromatherapy cream. Now I know aromatherapy works physiologically because I've seen it in practice. So you would just gather, and you can do this with any kind of sleepy cream, anything that's kind of got a lavender undertone, chamomile. So you've got lavender, chamomile, jojoba, hops, all the good sleepy stuff is in repose. And all you want to do with the product, and people forget about this, so product needs to be warmed for it to be absorbed into the skin. Not all product, but things like a sleep cream really wants to be absorbed. So you simply would warm this in your hands, and this is my bedtime ritual. So you warm it through your hands, and then just have that moment of just absorbing that fragrance. And that's a real trigger for me. Like, I might not be able to focus for the rest of the afternoon now. So that beautiful moment, and I really do take value in that. And this product, simply, you would just lather it, and I've got a clean canvas. I did it before I came on screen with you. You would put that product all over your skin, and when I do this, I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful that the day is finished and it's bedtime, and I'm so grateful for the connections that I've made, and I'm really grateful that the kids have had a good day, and that whatever it is that you're grateful for.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
my carb has to
like little task, isn't it? Because you're using all your senses, you're feeling it and you're smelling it. I love that.
And it is about senses. And then so I will send you a video for this as well, Sarah, because we've got a fab video of people doing this. But there are pressure points, especially around where we carry tension. So if you've got the ability to do so when you're doing this at home, guys, if you just find kind of just where the jawline finishes, just under the chin, and you'll know all of this from your yoga stuff, Sarah. If you rest and you put your elbows onto a hard surface, or your knees if you're at home, and then just find your temples and just take a little moment to just relax into that.
So delicious, isn't it?
It's just beautiful, and it's about connecting and feeling tension. Like, we live on screens. I talk about my number 11 that's forming, and this is my screen face.
I know. Well, I've got a fringe for that.
I've got full-on cowlicks on either side. Like, there's no fringe happening to me. But I'm conscious that I carry my tension here, and that's where I concentrate. And so just manipulating that tension outwards and pushing that product outwards. Now, the other really beautiful thing about repose is that it's got jojoba or jojoba, however you wish to say it, in there. And that's the closest essential oil that you will get to your skin's natural sebum, your skin's natural oil. And so when you apply that, I know, it's amazing, isn't it? So when you apply that product to your skin goes, oh, I don't actually have to do anything now. I can just rest.
Oh, how amazing is that?
And then your skin is able to rest through the night, or whatever this looks like, whether it's daytime, nighttime, afternoon, middle of the night. And just as a sideline, like, even when I'd be out at a home birth at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and get home and still have 3 hours on call, I would always put some repose on when I get in, because it's reminding me it's time to rest.
Yeah, just to signify the end of the day.
Yeah, it is.
Whenever that is.
It's signifying. It's giving your body those subtle cues that it's permission to switch off. Permission granted to switch off. So that tiny little moment, and it might only be 2 minutes of connecting mind, body, spirit, physically connecting with yourself and going with all of the beautiful fragrances that repose has in it. Now, if, like I said, if people want the experience, and or if there's girls that are watching this page and watching this connection that Sarah and I have had, and you're thinking, oh, I'd really love to join in an experience like that, why don't we gather those people together? You can come through Sarah or come through myself, and I will arrange a mum's night in and bring this to you. And I will send you out. Let me show you. So I will send you some, like you've got, Sarah, in your little pack. Yeah. Lovely. We call these our tapas because you get to pick. It's like having a little tapas, Templespa takeaway. I will put them together and I will send you guys out a slumber facial, and we can connect, and you can have a cup of tea or a glass of wine or whatever. And I will, with privilege, do that. And you guys can experience that 1 hour vacation on screen. And if you choose to bless yourself to some product, then fantastic. If you just do it because it's giving you some self-care, well, then I'm more than willing to do that, because that is what this is about for me.
Oh, Bailey, that is amazing. What a gorgeous idea. Thank you so much. Yes, let's organise that, because that just sounds so gorgeous.
I would love to
tell people that you've got your beautiful little marketing sign behind you, but just signpost where people can come and find you. Obviously, I'll link you everywhere anyway.
Yeah. So you can,
like, I gotta find out right now.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. So Bailey Warner _Templespa. You can also find me on my midwifery page, which is Bambino Birth, and Sarah can link me to that. I mean, we could have another session, Sarah, and just talk midwifery.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every week.
Well, yeah, let's do it.
Just talk about everything, can we?
Fabulous. So you can find me there. You can find me on Facebook, Bailey Warner Templespa. There are loads and loads of consultants up and down the country, so you can find us. If you really wanted to go and shop the experience, Harrods is the only place that you can buy us. But yeah, you can find me. Instagram is probably the best place, or on my website, which I'll pop the link to Sarah and we can post that on. So Templespa /Bailey Warner. And you'll find me.
Thank you so much. This has just been so, I think, like, profound and interesting and important, and just lovely. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I super duper appreciate it.
And thank you for inviting me, Sarah. It takes a village, and a village of different people doing different things, and I love that that's what your page is all about. And so I feel so thrilled to be on that journey with you. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you. That's gorgeous. Well, look, let's stay in touch.
Yes.
We love making new friends, and I'll see you very soon.
You will. Bye, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye. How lovely was Bailey, and how interesting was that chat? I absolutely loved it. I know this was a long one, but hey, sometimes that's what it takes to have these important conversations. So here's a little montage of me trying out some of the Templespa products, and I didn't do it at bedtime, actually, as Bailey suggested, but I had a really busy day, and I decided to use this little kind of ritual to start my day. So I started my morning with a tea and some gratitude journaling. I put my little candle on, and it was delicious. It just absolutely set me up for a busy day. And although I do this kind of thing normally, it was really nice to actually do something slightly different. So I thoroughly recommend, like, take a few deep breaths, take a mindful moment, because like, I'm not great with skincare, but what I do, I just kind of slap it on, and I really loved the idea of being really present and really mindful. So look, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I've got so many more interesting women to speak to every week, so do stick around, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, get in touch with me and Bailey if you want to know more.
all about the community, all about making new friends, and I'll see you here next week. Bye.